A number of City analysts now say they do not believe hard Brexit will happen. Here's why: the Conservatives' election loss, plus Labour's turn toward the single market, has strengthened the pro-Europe majority of MPs in Parliament. There are only about 50 MPs who are hardcore Eurosceptics. The rest are soft Brexiteers or outright Remainers. If an election were held today, Labour would end up with a working majority in the House of Commons, so Theresa May cannot afford to anger any more voters. According to YouGov. There is not enough time to negotiate a free trade deal with the European Union, so Britain must either accept hard Brexit or an off-the-shelf arrangement like the EEA. The government is already compromising on issues like a transitional period that keeps single-market trading relations in place, acceptance of some aspects of European Court of Justice law, and acknowledging that the UK must pay a divorce bill. Wages are stagnant, inflation is rising, and the economy is growing weakly. None of these factors paint an economic scenario that is supportive for a government going for hard Brexit. Sonali Punhani, LinkedIn London. Hard Brexit just isn't going to happen, according to Credit Suisse analysts Sonali Punhani and Neville Hill. They told clients they should expect a soft transition with the EU until at least 2021, that maintains the status quo. Membership of the single market and customs union now looks very likely, in our view. And, there is a rising probability that such a temporary soft transition ossifies into a permanent arrangement, they wrote. The reason: there are just too many logistical, political and economic factors trending in favor of soft Brexit, and almost none blowing the other way. Their note is titled Retreat. The Credit Suisse team is not alone. All summer, like a dripping tap, one analyst after another, at Morgan Stanley, HSBC, Pantheon Macroeconomics, and Credit Suisse, has published research on why they see hard Brexit receding from view. Their conclusions are a stark contrast to what people read in the media, or hear in commentary from Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson and backbench Conservative MPs like Jacob Rees-Mogg. We think this noise is a distraction. That stuff is just noise, Punhani and Hill say, and should be ignored in favor of the reality beneath the surface. We think this noise is a distraction. Since the June general election, we think there have been several meaningful shifts within UK politics that materially increase the probability that the UK will remain in the single market after 2019, possibly for a long time. And those shifts also mean the risk of a hard Brexit in 2019 or beyond is diminishing. There is one big reason why hard Brexit, an exit from the EU without any of the bloc's single market or customs union advantages, is increasingly unlikely. Prime Minister Theresa May only has 13 months left to get a deal, which must be reached by October 2018 in order for a draft accord to be ratified by the EU before the Article 50 deadline expires in March 2019. That timetable is simply too small for the UK to negotiate, but an off-the-shelf arrangement might fit inside that envelope. HSBC that would leave just 9 months for agreement. Trade deals usually take years. Pantheon macroeconomics analyst Samuel Toombs thinks the timeline is even shorter, only 9 months. The absence of any progress on the first round of talks so far means that they likely won't be wrapped up in October, as both sides originally hoped. December is now considered the most likely date for talks to move on to a future trade deal. That would leave just 9 months for agreement, as it will take about 6 months for EU member states to ratify the deal with their national parliaments. Trade deals usually take years, not months, to thrash out, so the only realistic way the UK will be able to avoid a cliff edge is to remain in the single market and accept all the associated financial, legal and migration obligations. Assuming no deal is reached in 2018, Britain's choice will either be to take a soft Brexit package deal that would leave the UK closely allied with the EU, such as membership of the European Economic Area or the European Free Trade Association, or hard Brexit. Hard Brexit is not tolerable to a majority of MPs. The House of Commons retained a solid pro-Europe majority despite the June election. This is Morgan Stanley's chart of Leave versus Remain in Parliament, We expect the EU to force a choice between a soft or a hard Brexit which divides the government, likely triggering early elections. Morgan Stanley analyst Jacob Nell and his team told clients on September 3 to expect another general election in 2018. We expect the EU to force a choice between a soft or a hard Brexit which divides the government, likely triggering early elections, a growth standstill and a debate on easing policy. A softer Brexit does now look somewhat more likely.